What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Watch It in Action. I'm BouseFeenux, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Latron Prime. The Latron Prime is a semi-automatic rifle with a slight damage increase over the Latron. It does primarily puncture damage as its physical damage type, and it's classified by most players as a crit weapon. Now, a lot of this may sound really good on paper, but for some reason, I cannot decide for the life of me whether or not I like this weapon. I've played with it for a really long time, and we've had some event mods come out that kind of changed my build for it a little bit. But even still, I'm not really sure if I like this thing or not. You guys can use it and make your own decisions about it. The only bad thing about this is you can't actually get this weapon anymore. It's been taken out of the drop tables when Frost Prime was vaulted, so that recently went away again. Now you can only get this weapon from another player if they have the parts for it, which makes it a little expensive, but I don't think it's really going for too much, so it's still fairly attainable. And a lot of you may have one of these laying around and you haven't maxed it out yet, or you're looking to decide, kind of like I was. So basically, like I said, puncture crit weapon, which, is pretty good. That's really useful against armored targets. It takes on elemental damage well. It has pretty good critical damage, but the critical chance for this weapon is so low, and I don't understand why. The critical scaling with this is really, really bad. So that's forced me to go ahead and put together two different builds for you guys. I have one that revolves around the event mods that just came out, and then I have a pretty standard, crit semi-automatic rifle build. Let's go ahead and take a look at those real quick. Okay, so the config A here is going to be our event mod build, and that's going to revolve around argon scope and bladed rounds. The other build, which is on BouseFeenux.com, revolves around having a heavy caliber and a shred on here. Now, there are pros and cons to each one, and I'm going to try to go through them as best I can. But first, the rest of the build basically is super standard. We've got a serration for damage, a split chamber for multi-shot, vital sense to up our crit damage, which gives us that 5.5 multiplier. Point strike, it gives us 150% critical chance, which puts us at 37.5% crit chance, which is super low for a weapon that's supposed to be a crit weapon, or is thought of as a crit weapon. And then we have two elementals here. You can make these whatever you want. You can do viral, you can do corrosive, radiation, whatever. I'm just using corrosive because that's my go-to for most of my videos. So now, argon scope and bladed rounds. These are the two I'm really fighting with the difference between these two. So argon scope basically gives you, on headshot, 135% crit chance while aiming for 9 seconds. So, two stipulations here to get this 135% crit chance. You have to be aiming down the sight, and you have to get a headshot. That's not always realistic. You're not always going to be able to pull that off. You're not always going to be able to get a headshot, and it only lasts for 9 seconds, which is not a lot of time in Warframe sometimes. So you're going to have to be really good at getting your headshots, which means heavy caliber is absolutely out of the question. We cannot use heavy caliber on this build, because it'll be too inaccurate. It'll be really hard to get those headshots, especially on a crit weapon anyway. You need to be getting headshots as often as possible, but like I said, that's not always, you're not always going to have that. Bladed rounds is a little easier to get, though, and on kill, you get actually 120% crit damage while aiming for 9 seconds. So again, two stipulations. You have to get a kill with this before this even kicks in, and even then it only lasts for 9 seconds, and you have to be aiming. So I guess that's 3 stipulations, but who's counting? So that's pretty much this. Now, when you can actually pull these both off, it's actually a very effective weapon. It's super accurate. This bumps up the crit chance way high, so you're always getting critical damage, and you can actually take advantage of this bladed rounds here. I don't know if I like this build yet. I don't know if it's as powerful as the heavy caliber and the shred build. So that's basically the only difference between the two builds anyway here, is just heavy caliber and shred as opposed to argon scope and bladed rounds. But heavy caliber is going to give us a huge boost in damage, which I've tested the numbers, and against each other, even with bladed rounds, I think I still see higher criticals with a heavy caliber on here. The big problem is this is a semi-auto rifle that relies on crit damage, so you need to get headshots to really take advantage of it, and heavy caliber makes it kind of inaccurate. It's hard to hit those targets really far away. Now, shred is something that I love on all my weapons. Punch through is an amazing stat. Super useful. It allows you to apply damage to multiple targets instead of a lot of damage to just one target. This is always a really easy mod for me to choose when I have an empty slot. So you can kind of play with both of these builds. I'm going to try to show you both of them here in the simulacrum. You guys can make your own choice, and maybe we can start a discussion about this in the comments of this video. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what your tests have yielded, and let's go ahead and test these out. The first one up here is the argon scope bladed rounds build. We're just going to use some standard test dummies. We're going to use our corrupted butcher buddies here, and let's test it out here. Let's see what the criticals look like. Okay, so around 3K, 8K, we got 8K, so we got both of the stats up there. We've got the bladed rounds and the argon scope both going. Alright, so 32,000 was our highest crit there, and that was with a headshot, I'm pretty sure, yeah. So those criticals are very regular. Argon Scope is going to make sure that we have a really high crit chance, and we're going to be able to take advantage of that bladed rounds, that extra critical damage. So that's that one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other one. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at our heavy caliber and shred build here, and we're going to see the difference. So the accuracy is going to probably be off a little bit, but notice we can hit more targets, and we're getting 3,400 crits, 8,000, let's see, 3,400, so that's a couple thousand more than with the bladed rounds. The only problem is, it's going to be a little hard to hit those. See, those hits aren't even hitting the head, and that one bullet went ahead and hit that other guy. So, like, our bullets are going all over the place. It's a little harder to be accurate with the heavy caliber on there. You know, I've done this test like 1,000 times, and I'm not really sure which one I like better. I guess at the end of the day, it really just comes down to playstyle. So, go ahead and start a discussion about this build in the comments. Let me know what you guys think is better. Maybe you've tested this a bunch of times yourself, and you're seeing something that I'm not. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask for your guys' opinions. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Again, you can find this build and many like it on BouseFeenux.com. Just make sure that if you go there, you disable your ad block, because that really hurts my content when you guys do that. Thanks a ton. You guys really rock, and I appreciate your continued support with these videos. Have a good one.